Brilliant work. Thank you, everybody. Such brilliant work. I'm really honored to be here. I brought some light and some dark and some short and some long. So we'll just see how it goes. I did it in an app online to see how fast it was. And it's 14 minutes, but depends on how fast I read. So the first one is called Street. Beautiful street we live on. We share a beat, heartbeat, bus beat of the feet on pavement, on grass, on music, on clouds, sun, rain, moon, sky. We are in the weather, rain or shine, colors lifting us up, thump, thump, the bass lines trigger, hits of mystery in the shadows. It's all right between us. We share a beat, a wave, a nod, hello, a genuine sympathy, walking compassion. Practice is a way of life on any street, anywhere in the world anymore. Hello, look us in the eye. We share a heart beat. And that's the first one. Thank you. The second one is being published next month in Middle Tennessee State University's Write Program Shift publication. It's called Bargain with Wildness. And I wrote it in February when we had a really deep snowstorm for a week. Bargain with Wildness. A brotherhood of winter birds acclimate above the snow. At the feeder we can barely keep full. Gentle mother's white blanket has touched us all with a new silence. Comfort inside, terror and chills without. The wild survive somehow. A new gunshot across the street at Chute Park. Just one shot this time. I run to the window, see nothing except snow. Two men leaving each other. One still, one running. No bodies, no blood to show. A return to innocence, appearances for now. Inside out, I'm irritable after days being snowbound, 4 inches more on the way tonight. The silence is thick. Light is blinding from the sun. 2 nights ago at dusk and light, fluffy snow falling, giggles and laughter from kids enjoying their first snow in the deep dark, videos, selfies, multiple gunshots a block away. The laughter stops, resumes with a peculiar humor at the absurdity of life and death on a hair trigger, and then they are gone. More snow on the way, the thick blue comforter spares us all night. Space heater, door closed to steward the heat. The rest of the house left to the struggling HVAC already in auxiliary mode. We have power, heat, foods, friends in our bubble. Fireplace with fire and breakfast casserole to share. We disregard the bullet holes only to find joy and closeness, proximity to the frailty. Life is precious, absurd, glorious and fleeting, depending where you are, who you are. For now, the snow gives a semblance of equal grace. It melts with rain next week. A brotherhood of birds at the feeder. We keep our bargain with wildness. That's the second one. And now I have one called Wars, and it does not have Afghanistan in there, but it should. But I wrote it before we ended that war. Wars. For Vivaldi, time stands still, transparent beauty, music, a natural elegy. Time stands still for memories. War Wars 1 and 2. Vietnam is fresh and a color like on TV, still real. Screams and wounds. Is he going to make it? Huey choppers coming in, strafing of bullets, machine guns, bombs as planned, new crop circles where there was land, jungle, the enemy. Daddy said World War II is in color. It's just the film that's black and white. Other memories still born, don't realize those wars are all over now. Once seen, once experienced, they cannot be unseen, unread, ghosts of the mind. I'm sorry it's like that. If it spooks you, it does me too. Old wars know no time limit. They cycle in the mind, heart, soul, old soldiers all. We do best with salve, poultice, bandages. Sometimes it's too great a wound and will not heal. like civil wars without end in the hearts, minds, souls of those who cannot just let it go. Solutions. I'm not sure what they all are, but peaceful actions along walking wounded landmines. Loving actions in wartime always win, always win. The good side always wins, right? Thank you. This next one is called Of Simultaneity. And there's trigger warning of World War II stuff because the Nazis were super mean. So that's in there. Of simultaneity. The way Matisse sketched the delicacy of his grandson's smile while his daughter paid the price of French resistance in the hands of the Gestapo, tied to the four legs of a table while the album on the gramophone was played to cover her screams, someone listening to the same album somewhere else at the same time remembered peace and dancing. While the second of two world wars was raging, Bonnard was writing his letters and painting, and Matisse was studying trees. Long before the Spanish Civil War that killed so many philosophers and poets, long before Hitler tested his blitzkrieg first on Madrid, the Alhambra was filled with people from all over Granada. The water was flowing from the lion's mouth, whispering the name of Federico Garcia Lorca, the night he celebrated the gypsies. The sandstone alley in Salamanca echoes the lonely man at his piano, serenading lovers he'll never know, 2 balconies down. The way fruit describes itself with its smell, far from the ravages of war, the Alhambra evolves stillness. Water flows from the lion's mouth. The sandstone absorbs the whispers of time to timelessness. Thank you. This is when I used to live in Washington, D.C. for 11 years. And this is one from going to the mall, the National Mall, which is not a shopping mall, but a beautiful mall full of free museums. 2 ideals. See-through world, walking on this hallowed grass. I wonder if Jefferson wanders beside us, his spirit ghostless, homeless. Now they've gone so very far. Coming soon, the Hall of Irony. The expectant family huddled in the taxi. They've come to look for the history of ideals in this sculptured town, where the flags are always at half-mast for the homeless vets who wander this grass with me in desert and jungle camouflage, asking for the time. Inside one of these marbles, I found the abstracts. Jackson Pollock found one face out of 2 lovers, splattered, entwined on black and peach. On my way back out to the car, through the revolving doors, I'm greeted. Ain't nothing beat the sky. That's a funny ending. Thank you. This is after a movie, driving home. Reflections on Joanna d'Arc de Mongolia, driving from the movie. Floating along the 4-lane late night and homeward, music and monotony in my skull. Mongolian nomads raced long horses as grasses grew back before them. Brilliant hued silks bursting through the wet outer subway walls, shattering with laughter and wind and sun, cheers and whistling, amazing me into sudden movement while driving. Everything is slow as earth. The sand blows quickly into deserts. Sand rushing into my eyes from their hooves and speeding, scrubbing me of sight to fill my head like an urn. I shift. The nomads cross over me now on their good horses. The princess leads the way, and they are all shimmering silken bodies. I am their desert, near the train where the spirit tree stands. Thank you. I can't see anybody because I'm looking at my text. So. Okay, let's see. This one is one from college or late college. Inheritance. Crescent moon claw, brooch in thinning black velvet sky. Mother pearl sits glowing soft inside a drawer back home. Street bulb eclipses all but a highway, winding wingless, asphalt, flat, cold and blunt-edged hand without thinking fingers, without the clutch of time ache. At night on a road where lights are few, the radio off, windows down, silence in motion, the breath of speed, space. Give it back, cautious as a sage. Paintbrush and essence free and loose of us, and back and forth the pulling, acceleration into the curve. Watch you do, you don't take curves of chance and change to helter-skelter. Break you into bits and billions where you are not. Came. Grandmother's moon, grandfather's highway, streetlights string the fates. Thank you. This one is called Field and Pond. And am I doing okay on time? I'm okay.
Absolutely. It's been only 11 minutes.
Cool, man. Okay, this one's called Field and Pond. Fresh egg, embryo sun, a pale yellow morning chases squirrels chasing each other around the scratchy pines. Tiny drops, clear heavens bloom, showing dome spectrums, every wildflower small and pink, yellow and tall plume waving, golden tips, wild grasses fill the field, blue bachelor's buttons, cool stars, horseflies not risen yet above them. Tick-ticking birds ringing the field from their trees, and the mourning dove, infrequent and shy, the spider weaving silver fine threads, the path through to the pond, walking through webs in the woods, green stained glass leaves, the dock we all sat on, talked late at night, swam to cut the heat, floated, fish nibbling on our legs and toes, concentric light rain circles, water bugs skating, cricket sustaining time. And I need a drink of water. Thank you. This one is called Moonbone from the 90s. Water turned your face to stone, smooth and round as creek bed rocks. One of these beads filled the palm of my hand with white weight. I believe it was your mouth, threaded onto a black leather strip. Gave it to a little girl with silver eyes. What is it made of? Where did it come from? Bone, normally a hollow substance and light, has become calcified over time. I found it in the water. Should have told her it was a piece of the moon. Your face was always so round and bright as that. Thank you. I have a couple longer pieces that you get to choose. I'm going to pull this back up so I can see everybody. I've got one called Down to New Orleans, which is pretty obvious what that's about. I have one called The Farm, which is where my father grew up, and another one called Among the Closer Stars, which is the new piece about Jamaica. So Jamaica, New Orleans, The Farm.
The Farm.
You got it. See. Okay. And this may be all the time I have once I finish this. The Farm. I can tell you what I know, what I remember as truth about the farm. My father and his ancestors on the McCormick side lived there since the Cherokee lost their land in a lottery and had to walk or perish in the Trail of Tears. Every time they would plow the fields, they would find arrowheads from the Cherokee. I only found one made of white quartz. I don't remember to who, but I gave it away. So we knew, of course we knew where the land had come from. New Echota settlement only a ways away from our home near the Etowah Indian Mounds. The Cherokee were recognized as a nation, had their own printing press and alphabet, yet they were treated like animals on the Trail of Tears. Betrayal in their inner circle came due for revenge in the new Cherokee territory out west. Daddy grew up there and two great aunts, until he went off to Georgia Tech and then off to World War II. Daddy loved to tell the story about his pet chicken that he had trained to ride the handles of his bicycle that he rode around the farm. He was devastated to see Aunt Nell come out the screen door one day, grab his pet chicken and wring its neck for supper. When he was growing up a red-haired, freckle-faced kid, he would walk to the Stylesboro Academy for school each day. The one-room schoolhouse had been spared by Sherman's troops during the Civil War because, as it was told, it said, "In God we trust," over the schoolroom chalkboard, which it certainly did. My great aunt Nell taught Daddy there growing up, and he used to vent about how hard she would hit you with a ruler if you did something wrong. That not only did she not spare him this, but sometimes made him an example for the class. My grandmother and two aunts eventually moved to a new house in town, a block from our home. By the time I came along, growing up, the old two-story farmhouse was for rent. Daddy and I would go out there in his truck and collect the rent or not. Daddy would get so mad at them all the way home, sometimes even if they paid the rent. I wasn't to interact with the renters or look them in the eye. The renters were so cold or mad that they started burning pieces of the old farmhouse and barn. For Daddy, that was the last straw, and he boarded the house up for good. Before he boarded it up, we all took a look through it. It was missing a door and windows here and there, already vandalized. We would walk upstairs, and I loved the smell of a huge pile of cottonseed stored in an upper bedroom. Eventually, all the stairs inside and up to the front porch were so disintegrated, it was too dangerous to enter. There was an old family photograph of the family in the 1800s, a huge gathering of people mostly dressed in black, holding babies and standing proudly on the front porch and the upper balcony. One of my older brothers, talented at mechanical drawing, penciled a version of the farmhouse from the family photograph, and Mama had it framed. One time we were in an art event at Roselawn, and one of my older sisters and I recognized the farmhouse in a beautiful painting in an artist booth. We wanted to buy it and debated, but it was sold when we went back. Great Aunt Ladybug said there used to be a chandelier in each room, but Mama said a lot of what Ladybug says isn't true. It was true that Ladybug's littlest brother was killed in a fire he started with matches. Great Uncle Bob went away and joined the Merchant Marines and was never seen except in brief and infrequent visits. Daddy said Uncle Bob predicted the Japanese were preparing for war because they were buying up all the scrap metal they could get. The farm was 144 acres. Daddy hired someone to run the soybeans or cotton or mix of crops they decided upon. What they made just barely paid property taxes on it each year. The Etowah River ran along the back of the house as well as the railroad. I was fascinated with both. Daddy would drive us out there, and then we would all go exploring in separate ways. Leaving the farm, going out the back way, we'd cross this tiny but pretty creek, often marred by dumping of appliances and things. We would stop there and Daddy would smoke a cigarette and ask me questions. Usually I was distracted by the trash in the creek and the big Bowen plant to the right with tall, white, unusually curved silos. At one time, we thought about building a house out on the farm, but remained indecisive until it was too late. There was a swimming hole there with a long rope to swing on it from a huge tree. I used to sit there and just listen and watch the river, listening to the wind in the trees. It was so calming. Later, the swimming hole became a huge party zone for what my daddy called white trash, but they were just people too. They left huge piles of empty beer cans and trash behind after their parties. Daddy confronted them one time and they threatened to kill him. After that, Daddy always brought a gun with him when he visited the farm, and we were told it was off limits. But I was fascinated in college as a new photographer with capturing the beauty of the farm, my place by the river, the woods, and the lime sink, of which I'd only heard tell. As luck would have it, I ran out of film in my camera right before I found the lime sink in a throng of sinking trees and vines below the old farmhouse. It had been there all along. Daddy'd always warned me that people would be quickly sunk beneath the water in the lime sink and not to try to find it. But find it I did, crazy college student, fearless of course, until the ground trembled underneath me as I stood trying to memorize the features of the lime sink, acid palette of yellows and lime greens, huge thick vines dripping from surrounding trees, being sucked into the watery spaces. There was no tore down. So dense were the vines, as the lime snake was some kind of infinity pool of a different kind. I stood there for a few moments and thought better of the whole thing. Cursing that I had no film left, I backed away, then walked back to my car, went home to see my parents who had run unaware of these secret trips to the farm. I graduated from college in 1987. The family came together for the ceremony. The next day, we all found out the old farmhouse had been a victim of arson overnight. I remember my father repeating over and over, it had nothing to do with your graduation. Still, it struck me hard after a glowing feeling the day before as a mark in time. We all went out there sorting through the ashes, finding bits of charred old wood, some random spoons that weren't worth anything. Daddy saw the land almost immediately as if a curse was off his back. That makes sense to me. The whole time somehow that farmhouse, the farm, was cursed land because it had belonged to the Cherokee. I created 2 paintings in watercolor of the lime snake, and I'll never forget the good memories of the railroad tracks, the Etowah River banks, the lime snake, the smell of the cotton seeds, the surreptitious visits in college, and that one white quartz arrowhead I gave away. But somehow none of that land was ever ours at all. Thank you. Thank you. That was a long one, my bad.